Underwriting for the Money Doctor Show is provided by Ryan and Casey Liquors, Main Street, Greenfield. Exploring the world, one glass at a time. West County Equipment Rental of Shelburne. Daily, weekly, monthly rentals. 625-6463 or on the web at westcountyequipment.com. Weld Communications, Marketing and Publicity. Helping businesses spread the word in the Pioneer Valley and beyond. www.weldwords.com.
There's a better life if I could be debt-free, but all my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.
Hello and welcome to the Money Doctor Show. I'm Dr. Frances Rayam, president of Power Down Debt, a positive debt management company. If you've ever sat in the emergency room for 6 hours, or you need a flu shot, or I don't know, you just can't get in to see your doctor, I have two people in the studio today that you want to meet. I'd like to welcome to the set Dr. Ennis and Dr. Sattari.
Thank you.
Both from AEIOU. Welcome, doctors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for
us.
being here. So, can I buy a consonant with that? AEIOU?
Sometimes why?
Sometimes
Perhaps.
why? Let's start there. What is AEIOU? What does the acronym stand for?
Ambulatory, Employee, Industrial, Occupational, and Urgent Healthcare.
Oh my.
Yes.
How long does it take to memorize that? Okay, let's break it down a little bit.
Sure.
There's two basic needs that you meet, right, at the root of this. Who wants to tell me about the difference between them?
So we provide occupational health services for employers in the community. And so what that means is if somebody is being hired and they need a pre-employment physical to make sure that they are able to meet the physical demands of that job, they have to do heavy lifting. We can have them do lift tests to make sure that their form is appropriate. So that sort of thing. DOT examinations and workers' comp examinations for folks who are injured on the job. So we provide that service for employers and businesses.
Okay.
But then for the community, walk-in urgent care visits. So if somebody hurts themselves, they sprain their ankle, they've got a cut, and they're not quite sure what to do and their doctor can't get them in, we're happy to see them and do the best that we can for their needs.
Thank you. They have a boo-boo.
Boo-boo.
Exactly. I'm going to bring up boo-boo in a minute, but it was just too easy to say that when you said if they have a cut, you know. Okay, if they need a flu shot or some sort of medical care like that, tell me about that area.
Yeah, absolutely. We can provide things such as a flu shot. The sort of words that we describe to people as what we treat are non-life-threatening, urgent conditions.
Right.
So
Urgent, not necessarily emergency.
Exactly right. For example, we don't do IV. We don't give IV fluids. We don't have CAT scans. Both Dr. Ennis and I are emergency physicians, so we've have experience working that kind of field as well. So if somebody thinks that they're having a stroke or a heart attack or significant abdominal pain, they have appendicitis, we're really not the right facility for you because that's really potentially life-threatening.
Right.
But
now, if they came to you, would you stabilize them or get them to the next facility? I mean, can you do anything for them like
Absolutely.
that? Okay.
So if somebody comes to us, we've had people come in and, for example, they're like, my arm hurts a little bit. And we have, for example, an EKG machine. We've got an EKG. We notice that they're having actually a heart attack.
Sure.
We immediately, give them an aspirin, contact 911, have them taken right away to an emergency department.
Right.
So that happens from time to time, and we certainly can deal with that.
Okay. Basic kinds of things that you see every day. Flu shots, what was it, a cut, a boo-boo?
Flu shots, boo-boo, so, you get a laceration, you're cutting your tomatoes at home, and you cut your finger, your doctor's office is closed, and you're thinking that the ER is going to be a 3 or 4 hour wait.
Yeah.
If it's before our office is closed, and Amherst we're open until 8, and Greenfield we're open until 4 for the time being, you can come in and have that stitched up. That's not life-threatening, but you don't want to wait till the next day to have that addressed. So things of that nature, a bladder infection, a sinus infection, something that's...
That's how I found you, a sinus infection. It is, Or the second time I found you, you're too darn busy. You're too busy to sit in the emergency room. Maybe you don't want to sit for 6 hours with sick people around you waiting to be seen for your non-life-threatening injury. The first time I found you, and the reason that I asked you to be on the show, is I felt that with the health care problem in America, as bad as it is right now, we're all looking for some sort of solution. And for me, that meant I had to get care. I was actually out of the country, and I had a sinus infection, and I couldn't get care. And I had to come home, barely, but very sick, and still couldn't get care. Why? Because I had been a healthy individual. I didn't have a primary care physician. I couldn't get treated without a primary care physician. Well, guess what? You can't get a primary care physician when you're sick instantly. So I had to fix that. I had to go get a primary care physician eventually. But initially what I did is I came to AEIOU. I met a very nice man named Kevin. I felt he was competent. He did all the checks on me that he had to do to make sure I was healthy enough to administer any sort of advice. And he gave me an antibiotic. It was astounding. I didn't have to sign my life away or anything. I actually got treatment. So I felt better almost immediately. And then the second time I came to you, I simply was too busy to be able to get to the doctor. And I can't remember what it was, but it was something minor. And it might have been poison ivy or something like that. And I called your office and I said, it was 1 o'clock, and I said, I have a 2:45 appointment. If I come in, can you get me out on time? And they said, we can try. There's nobody here now. Come on down. So I did, and they got me in and out. They were great. So that you didn't escape me the second time. The first time I thought about having you on the show. The second time I said, oh, you have to come.
Thank you very much for the kind words. No,
well, thanks for the treatment.
We're glad you had a good experience. I mean, that's
two good experiences.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I mean, that is part of what makes it difficult for people, is not having immediate access to health care when they need it, and when they've got the time to fit it into their busy day.
Yeah. So. Speaking of busy days, you have 2 children?
I do.
2 and 5.
2 and 5.
You want to say hello to them?
Hi, Lena. Hi, Violet. I love you.
Oh, they're gonna love that. And you have a furry family.
I have I have a daughter as well.
And you have a daughter.
Yeah, I have
a whole daughter
old.
I missed?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have my daughter who's 15 months old, and my Borzoi dog.
Yeah, nice. So both of you have busy lives. You used to work as emergency doctors, right? In the ER, both of you?
I still
or not?
do.
You still do?
At Cooley Dickinson.
At Cooley, right?
Yeah.
And you did for how long?
I was at Cooley Dickinson for about 7 years.
Wow. Is that how you met?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Colleagues.
And how did you decide to start AEIOU? You're both founders, right? Or founding members of it?
I joined in after the founding. You were one of the founding members.
Okay.
So about 5 years ago, the Cooley Dickinson had an occupational health service that it provided. But as they're restructuring things, they were thinking about sort of shedding that particular service. And so they came to the emergency physician group and said, is this something that you'd be interested in? And so the group met, and collectively about 10 of us decided, let's see if we can make a go of this. So we started AEIOU at that time, about 5 years ago, and added the urgent care service onto it after the first year or two of having sort of stabilized things. And then the Greenfield site evolved as a national occupational health chain was closing down that office, but there are businesses and people who needed that service to continue in this area. So we adopted that site as well and have just sort of continued from there.
Absolutely.
Cool. It's I was smiling because I was remembering when I met you the first time, and I said, who came up with this AEIOU thing? Yeah. What did you tell me? It's something, I was trying to figure out which came first, the chicken or the egg, the acronym or the whole name.
That's still up for debate, I think. I'm not quite sure.
We still don't know, but it does stick in your head.
Sure.
Like Boo Boo Bear. Now, you knew I had to bring up Boo Boo Bear.
That's fine.
So tell me about Boo Boo Bear.
Absolutely. So we were trying to, when I took over, initially I was the role of Chief Operating Officer, which Kama now does. And one of the things I wanted to do is reach out to people and tell them that we were there. And thinking about healthcare, there's sort of 2 things you want. And one of them is competency, knowledge. And a lot of times when healthcare advertising you see, it really emphasizes that, austere people in stethoscopes and white coats and kind of high-end, we have so-and-so machine that does so-and-so.
Right.
Whereas when I really thought about sort of my own experiences being a patient, and what I think people really need more than anything, there's also the other aspect, which is really an interpersonal one, of going somewhere and receiving care and understanding, and I was trying to find an image that would sort of help with that.
Yeah, it's hard to recognize chicken soup on the billboard, right?
That's right.
But Boo Boo Bear, you know, people have to know what I'm talking about. This little teddy bear, this cute little teddy bear,
Right.
with a little red cross on him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
It'll
similarly,
make you feel better right away.
that's the idea. And then the other thing was that I was trying to emphasize to people with non-life-threatening sort of injuries, and then the notion of a boo-boo really worked out well.
Yeah.
Because when you say non-life-threatening, it almost sounds like very technical, and then what do you mean non-life-threatening?
Right.
Whereas everybody really understands, oh, I got a boo-boo. You know, when you, heaven forbid, if somebody was to cut their foot with a chainsaw, they wouldn't say, I have a boo-boo.
My eyebrows were raised because I'm thinking, this is a boo-boo in your world? Because in my world,
No.
it's a big no-no.
Exactly. No,
Never mind boo-boo.
That's
Right.
call 911 and
Yeah.
go on to the ER.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think the term boo-boo really describes people's notion of what is really a non-life-threatening urgent condition.
Yeah, that would do it for me. Okay, so how long have the two of you worked together?
Oh, well over 5
About
years
5,
now.
yeah.
5 years. And do you both travel between the two offices? Does one of you work out of Greenfield, one of you works out of Amherst? What are your
Sure.
days like?
I still work in the ER full time.
Yeah.
At Cooley Dickinson.
Wow.
So I work some days, 1 day a week out of the Amherst office, but do mostly administrative stuff. Initially, I worked in both offices.
And I'm primarily based at the Amherst office. I go up to Greenfield a couple of times a month. We've got an incredible physician assistant, Linda Bean, who's in the Greenfield office.
Linda Bean, yep,
Linda Bean,
yep.
yeah. 4 days a week, and Kevin's there on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And our practice manager also goes back and forth between the two sites.
Yeah, Linda Bean was actually, I think, who finally got it done, connecting us. I think
Yes.
immediately, yeah.
Yes.
She and the staff there, such as there's Linda, Megan, and Kim, are dynamos. They're really awesome people.
There's no doubt about it. From the moment I walked in the door and your staff started to help me with forms or whatever, I was impressed by the lack of a booklet that I had to fill out. I only had to fill out a couple of pages, and they were easy, and they got me through it, and they were pleasant, and cashing out was easy, and all of that. I want to talk more about the finance when we come back in a couple of minutes.
Sure.
As well. And I want to talk about the
Underwriting for the Money Doctor Show is provided by Dr. Glenn Brooks at the office of Glenn Brooks and Spa on the Green. 413-565-4400. drglennbrooks.com. Video Broadcast Services. Complete marketing services for your business. 480-200-4222. Videobroadcastservices.com. Richard Wiedegartner, LMT. Neuromuscular Massage Therapy. For pain relief, call 413-773-5775. rwmassagetherapy.com. Magic Wings Butterfly Conservatory. 4,000 butterflies flying year-round. 413-665-2805. magicwings.com.
Welcome back. We're here today with Dr. Kama Ennis and Dr. Mehdi Sattari from AEIOU. Welcome back with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's talk a little bit about your backgrounds. Tell me first where you went to school, what your degrees are in, and
Sure.
what your background is educationally.
So in undergrad, I actually studied medical anthropology, sort of a way of trying to understand medicine from different cultural perspectives, which I thought was kind of fun. But I went to NYU for medical school and did my emergency medicine training at the Harvard program at Mass General and Brigham and Women's, and studied public health at Harvard as well.
Slacker.
I went out every now and then. I had a good time.
Okay. Well, so we're getting good health care when we come to you guys, evidently.
Thank you.
Maddie, tell me about your background.
Sure. I did my undergrad at Swarthmore College outside of Philly, and then did my medical education at the University of Rochester in Rochester, New York, and then did my residency training in emergency medicine at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque.
Nice. And New Mexico?
It's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately too far away from family that live all in the Northeast.
Yeah.
But University of New Mexico was a great place for emergency medicine. We see the entire states. It's the only level 1 trauma center for the entire state.
Wow.
And you would have
Wow. A whole state, one level 1 trauma center.
It's not a very populated state, And
Yeah, but it's big.
It's
I mean,
huge.
yeah.
We get a lot of air medical transport. We would see anything from, one moment would be a gang-related shooting to a heart attack to a 14-year-old Navajo gal who was trying to break her horse in and fell off and broke her arm.
Yeah.
You would just get all kinds of things, which is incredible. It's a good place to train.
Wow. AEIOU is a cakewalk for you, right?
It's funny. Every aspect of life has its challenges.
Yeah? What are the challenges for you here?
Absolutely. So one of the things we really want to do is we try to offer a consistent level of care to people. I think we try to really reach out to the community of physicians and providers and really meet the goals of the specific community, which is, for example, different in Amherst or Greenfield.
Right. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Sure.
What's the practice like in Amherst, and what do you see there in relation to what you see here in Greenfield, and what were the different needs in those two communities? Because we're not very far apart, but culturally, it's a much different area.
And medically speaking,
Right.
it is. You want to?
Access to primary care is challenging all over this country, honestly, but in Amherst, there's a bigger network of primary care providers who really can stay in touch with their patients and keep track of them. So our focus there when we see patients is to make sure that we get information back to the primary care provider, to make sure that we refer the patient back to the primary care provider so that things don't get lost in the cracks.
Right. Let's talk about how important that is to people, because that all sounds great in jargon. We refer them back, but you're coordinating this care. So if I'm ill and it's not life-threatening and my doctor's office is closed and I call you, it's not that my doctor's going to have no idea what you did.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And you have access to records, I'm assuming, and you are able to provide records to them.
We provide records to the primary care provider when we've finished our documentation. We send that information directly back to the primary care provider's office, so they know what happened, they know what their patient was treated with, they know what follow-up we recommended for them. And there are some offices who, when they close or go on vacation, very small primary care offices where they don't have a whole team of people to take care of their patients when they leave town.
Sure.
They'll send their patients to us, they'll send their records to us so that we know the medications they're on, because not everyone knows their medications. So we can really try to stay integrated to the best ability that we can. And if someone doesn't have a primary care provider, I've recently called all the primary care offices in the Amherst area to say, are you accepting new patients, so that we can tell patients who they could try to get in with and who is no longer accepting patients at this time.
Right. That would have been really handy for me, as I said earlier, when I came in, because I didn't have a primary care physician, and I had gotten a couple of referrals, and every time I called, they said they weren't taking new patients. In fact, the primary care physician I finally ended up with, I'm embarrassed to admit, I had to pull some strings to get in. Literally had to call and say, but wait, so-and-so sent me, and really I'm healthy, I'm not going to need much, honestly. And then she took me. So I keep getting a little bit frustrated when I tell people the story about AEIOU, that they don't seem to know you're there, or if they know that you are there, they don't understand what kind of care they can get there.
Sure.
So I'm trying to figure out, why don't doctors, as part of their regular battery of questions or whatever, add that and say, hey, were you aware that if my office is closed, you could always call AEIOU and we work together?
Sure.
But do you think that they're threatened by AEIOU taking patients or anything like that? I mean, do you see that integration happening?
We haven't feel that people are threatened by it. I think conceptually people can perceive it that way, but we in the past have tried to really reach out to people, and I'm willing to do so again. To really talk to people, whoever is concerned, for us to say, what are the ways in which we can help you meet your patient's needs better. I think there's a lot of room for cooperation and mutual success in delivering that healthcare to the patient.
Sure.
And I think, for example, in the Greenfield area, from what we understand, there's a lot of awesome primary care doctors. Unfortunately, there's a lot of providers that are retiring, and there's just a natural cycle of patients trying to find new primary care providers.
Right.
So I know Linda Bean has tried to reach out to some people, and we're willing to work with people to really say, all right, well, you're trying to curtail your hours. Now you're going to have a new member of your team come on. what are the ways in which we can help you in that transition? And I think when we approach things from that sort of rubric, people really are warm up to it and are accepting of it.
Sure.
So with the Greenfield area, we hope to, if we can also, primary care providers are welcome to contact us and say, look, I have a panel that has a room so I can accept new primary patients. We would love to have that so that we can pass on people to them.
Well, one of the things that I was seeing when I was there is that it's like another level of healthcare that we've sort of ignored until this point. We have the primary care physicians, we have the emergency rooms. Both of them seem to be overloaded, which is what our big complaint is in healthcare, I think, is we can't get seen, and when we do get seen, it's astronomically priced, or it doesn't take our insurance, or there's some sort of problem. So if we could really utilize a service like AEIOU, we could maybe lighten up the emergency rooms so the emergency rooms are handling emergencies and people aren't sitting there waiting for, you know, a bazillion hours to be seen, and the primary care physicians, we can get in to see them for regular checkups and whatnot, because they don't have this backlog from what happened after their office was closed for the evening or the weekend or whatever. Speaking of which, it's a little out of place, but tell me about your hours, because you guys have these really nice hours.
Great.
So our Amherst location is open from 8 to 8, Monday through Friday, and from 11 to 5 on the weekends.
Right, you don't get that from your PCP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're closed only on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Aside from that, that location is open for all holidays. You know, it might be holiday hours, but we're open and can take patients in. The Greenfield location is a little bit different. It's open from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday only at this point.
Okay. Wow, really nice. Let's talk a little bit about finance, just because I'm the money doctor, and I see these credit card bills and problems come through my office. And we did a show on bankruptcy, and one of the things that is one of the most common problems for people filing bankruptcy are medical bills. So when I came to your office the first time, my insurance wasn't one that was accepted. I had a discount plan at the time. The second time I came to your office, your staff said, do you have insurance? I gave them a card. Much to my surprise, it was actually covered. And I didn't perceive that. I really thought, okay, I'm getting this really cool, fast, you know, sort of upscale health treatment, and I expected it to be self-pay.
Sure.
So give me a little background about a little information about what you think happens financially for people and what they miss.
Absolutely. I think when people sign up for health insurance, first of all, if you don't have health insurance, it's really worthwhile to consider getting it, especially if nothing else, catastrophic health.
Right.
Because that's unforeseen things can happen to people, and that can really bankrupt people. It can put people in a horrible place. Just as a quick example is that I knew a dentist when I lived in Rochester, New York growing up. And he went out to California, and he had set up 2 dental offices, and he just neglected to have dental insurance for himself, and he felt that he was healthy. Unfortunately, he had a heart attack, spent about a week and a half in ICU level care, and unfortunately passed away, and his family were, you know, they had something like $200,000 worth of medical bills. Which was really just astronomical. And those rare events, I would say, people, that's something to really consider for you and your family. And then in terms of one's health insurance, it's changing so often that even as medical providers, we sometimes try to look up people based on their cards at the time they arrive every 6 months, whether you're on a plan year, which means whenever you started your plan, say June 1st you were hired, that's when it starts. Or some people are annual year, so it starts January 1st. The plans change. So take a little bit of time to read that material and really think about various situations. Now, the unfortunate thing is you look at that thing and you see numbers and events, is to read it and think, well, what are the things, like let's say tomorrow I get a cut.
Right.
Or tomorrow I get a really bad belly pain and I think I might have appendicitis.
Right.
What are the things that would apply to me?
Right, where do I have to go? If I go to the emergency room, is my insurance going to pay or not?
Right.
How long do I have to wait? Do I have to tell them first that I'm going somewhere? Do I have to go to a doctor on their list? We all think we know the answers to that when we get the insurance, but you're absolutely right. Every year it changes.
Changes quite a bit, and then pay attention to the fact that you have there's coinsurance on top of your deductible.
Right.
And then there's a maximum there's a deductible amount that's yearly, and then there's a maximum out-of-pocket amount, which are oftentimes very different.
Right.
And then the other thing I tell people is that, look, if you are sick, you don't have insurance, if you don't have your health, it could be bad. So
it can't be good. It's never going to be good without our health, right?
There's no amount of money that pays for that,
Right.
So what I say to people, and sometimes people do come to the emergency department or our offices, we try to have a standard cash price for somebody who doesn't have insurance. But when you go to the emergency room, all the studies that might be needed can be pretty expensive. So I tell people, look, at the end of the day, should you be saddled with a large bill, you have to call that hospital or entity that's billing you.
That's right.
And just set up a payment plan with them.
That's
Say,
right.
I can only pay $5 a month. And the laws are a little bit different for healthcare as opposed to other debt situations. They really have to accept that, which is really, so I say to people, there are times when people are like, I'm having horrible chest pain, but I don't want anything done. I said, look, heaven forbid, if this is a heart attack, it's going to be horrible. So this is the way you get it. And then also, a lot of the hospitals, I know at Cooley Dickinson, they have staff members right there that help people get insurance right at the time of their visit. So if you have to go and use those services, kindly just say, can I speak to that person? Or they'll give you the number for that person so you can retroactively establish that care. That is possible nowadays.
Wow. Time is flying on us. I can't believe it. Thank you very much for that. I can't let the show go out. We have a few minutes left, but we have to talk about the businesses and DOT. That's a big deal, right? So can we get that in?
Oh, sure. So the Department of Transportation. So regulations are changing for the DOT exam starting May of 2014. So whereas in the past, anyone could perform a DOT exam and grant someone a card to drive a commercial motor vehicle of any different size. That's changing now. Now there's going to be a national registry, and people have to go through a specific training course, which is a lengthy training course.
Of course it is, right.
Take an exam, and then each and every exam that is performed is going to be put on this national registry, which basically means that given the length of time that it's going to take to get people certified, there are a lot of people who are not going to be certified. We're going to have people certified at both of our locations so that people can continue to get DOT cards through our offices, because a lot of primary care providers have done that in the past and probably aren't going to bother to, given the burden of getting certified and credentialed to do it. But if they do, that's wonderful. If they don't, then we're here to meet that need. And another really important thing for folks who need DOT cards to think about is the regulations are not only changing for those who provide the exam, but for those who are for those patients who need the cards.
That's what I was going to ask. How do they know what's going on? Right?
They're getting much more strict in terms of medical conditions and needing to have sometimes specialist evaluation. If you have a heart condition, it doesn't mean that you can't have a card. It just means that you need to have documentation, have testing over the course of a year. And we're going to build that into our website as well, so that people know, okay, I've had vertigo.
Right.
When will I be able to get a card again? Because there's a waiting period before you are able to get a card again.
Right.
I'm on this medication, is that going to be an issue? So we're going to build that into our website so that people will be able to say exactly what they need to provide to us, so that we can really streamline the process, and so that there's not a gap in terms of them having what they need to do their job.
Wow. I can imagine with the new requirements that a lot of primary care physicians or other facilities won't want to do the DOT things at all. So I'm glad you're picking up that slack.
Sure.
Speaking of the website, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you? Website, phone number?
So the website is www.AEIOUHC.com. You can also email us at info@AEIOUHC.com.
I want to email to Boo Boo Bear.
We can get Boo Boo Bear an email address. That could be arranged,
I think you should get Boo Boo Bear an email address.
That could be arranged.
Boo Boo Bear at AEIOU.
Just give me a couple of days, so we'll make that happen.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. Until our next chat, I'm Dr. Rayam with Drs. Ennis and Dr. Sattari, reminding you to keep it positive.
There's a better life if I could be debt free, but all my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.